Good morning, everybody, and excuse my morning voice, if you will, and the shaky cam. I don't have a gimbal for the DSLR yet, but it is indeed morning. We are at our, what do you call that? I wouldn't say midway backstop. I made it a few hours out from the track last night and stopped at Mauston, Wisconsin for an evening in this lovely Best Western back here. But our mission for this morning is to first fix the little hiccup we had at the track yesterday and in a more secure fashion than I have it right now. Before the third session of the day, I noted when I started the car, so I had no indication of this coming off the track from the second session, but when I started the car, with 5 minutes to go before the third session with a photographer on the clock, I had this hideous rattle from the back end of the car. I kind of walked around, I got out of the car and figured out what it was. Kind of started walking around the back of the car and then got to about here and was like, hey, it sounds like the exhaust. So I kind of put my foot on the exhaust tip like this and the sound distinctly changed, which led me to look under the car and I found this. So yeah, that was all three exhaust bolts had made a bid for freedom. I don't know that I've ever lost a single exhaust bolt before in my life, but this time we lost all three, and that's what I need to replace this morning. I have the little bolt that could holding it together. I'm going to start the car real quick and kind of try and ascertain if I have an actual leak or not still. I suspect I don't. The sealing ring, it's like a crush ring, I guess, instead of a flat gasket on this particular junction. So if I'm lucky, that's stayed in place and didn't fall out with everything else. And I can just go down the road here to a car part store before I get on the 12-hour drive to finish my trip back home today and replace those exhaust bolts. So let's see what we can find. Right, so it doesn't appear to be actively leaking, but I still want to have it a little more secure before I jump on the road for 12 straight hours and count on the thing to hold together. The last thing I want to do is end up getting down the road where the weather isn't so gorgeous and then getting stuck somewhere and having to get under the car in the rain or something like that. So I did some Googling, and there appears to be an O'Reilly's if I go left out of here just across the interstate before I jump back on. #sponsor me. But I'm going to pop in there, see if I can grab at least one or two more exhaust bolts that will work, get those thrown on the car, and then we will get underway in earnest back home. And that is the end goal of this episode, is to is to get back home. So after making the last video, I guess it was somewhat inevitable that I had to kind of run into some kind of shenanigans to prove my point of it being important to carry spare hardware with you or something like that. But if this is all that happens and I just have to bolt the exhaust back together once, then I'll call it a win and take that back to the house. So, all right, on to O'Reilly's. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, looks like that'll do, and matching things. All right, let's go. All right, so another case in point here. So, as I mentioned in my last video, I bring these 13mm wrenches, even though the no stock bolt on the NSX is that size. But guess what? The exhaust bolt kits that you get from a chain store are 13mm. So there you go. Alright, and without too much time elapsed, that is our random roadside malady taken care of. I say roadside, although it happened at the track, but yeah, you get the point. We now have 3 bolts back in our exhaust instead of just the one that's barely hanging on. These are a little bit undersized because I just grabbed what I could real quick so I can get on the road, but they should hold fine. They're, you know, they're snug. And then when I get home, I'll be able to replace them with more substantial hardware, which is clearly necessary. Again, this is the first time that I've had exhaust bolts like that just make a bid for freedom, but you know, again, the weird stuff that can happen when you have a track like that that's very undulating. There was definitely some chassis flex going on there, because I also lost one of the E-clips that holds the trunk struts up popped off. So I'll replace that when I get home. That's not a big deal. I just got to keep track of where it is and make sure it doesn't pop off and hit anything, but or make sure the strut doesn't pop off and hit anything, but not a big deal. So there we go. Tool assortment mentioned in the last video effectively used, and hopefully I will not see you again until I'm talking to you from my garage. But until that happens, I'm Richard, this is A Lap of the World, and I will see you guys in the next video, if not at the track.